This is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with Donnie, Alex, Jeremy, and Jeff Burton.
It is the Last Minute Blues Podcast for the first time since, I believe, the start of free agency. Just the three of us in a room together to talk a little bit of puck. Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN, Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, the only guy that I know that continually boos himself.
Well, he didn't do it, so I figure I'm going to boo him if he's not going to.
Well, he was giving himself the thumbs down, as per usual.
Donnie there, but hey, I got to tell you, I think I learned this in a psychology or something class back at UMSL in the days. If I turn this way and kind of, I don't wrap my leg around here and face it kind of shows that I like you. So I don't want to.
Well, then
I don't want to tell you guys if you ever see anybody who's going the other way,
they don't like
with
you?
Their leg faced that way. It's kind of.
Do you
telling.
sit? Now, see that. Welcome back to the podcast because we're not talking hockey. Do you sit the way that Donnie sits? Because I can't sit. I used to sit like this because I was afraid this looked a little weird. Now this is the only way I sit.
I'm almost 50, and I can't swear here, but I don't give an ish. I'm going for complete and total comfort, and if somebody has an issue with how my legs are crossed, well then
good.
They can, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
This is the old Italian man way of sitting. My grandpa used to sit like this on Thanksgiving after he ate like 3 pounds of turkey. He'd like sit back in his chair. Rocky or The Godfather would be on, and he'd be like this. And I'm like, God bless you, Grandpa.
Yeah, but I mean, like the other way, just not comfortable.
Yeah,
so we're just going for comfort.
You guys I do remember years and years ago, I was at Old Bush Stadium, and I saw a bigger guy. And at the time, I was a small runt teenager or whatever, but I saw a bigger guy, and he had his hands like this with the thumbs on the outside, and he was sitting with his hands on his legs like this at the ball game. Yeah, just sitting like that. And I looked at him, and again, bigger guy, and I said, if I ever find myself sitting like that, I'm gonna know that I'm a bigger guy. And dang it, if it wasn't 20 years ago, all of a sudden I feel my thumbs go to the outside, and I put them down. Whoa, you gotta be kidding me! Get out of here! What are you doing?
That's funny. That's how JR sits up in the press box during Blues games. He's like this, staring at his laptop.
Well, we just from the jump, and it's not necessarily like official yet, but we want to give an absolutely massive shout out, guys. Just to give a little bit of a backstory here, but we have been working hard on the podcast for a long time. And we now, starting in September, will officially be sponsored by Blue Note Roofing.
Blue Note Roofing. I know. I looked at Donnie and I said, man, what a good-looking hat that you're wearing right there. Yeah, Blue Note Roofing, official sponsor of the Last Minute Blues Podcast.
Yeah, and I like that it's 2 words because a lot of people make that one word. And Jim Woodcock, the longtime executive for the St. Louis Blues, whenever I would write it in the newspaper or online, he'd say, make sure it's 2 words. There you go. It's like they've done a great job with that.
Huge Blues fan, as you can tell with the Blue Note on there, but I am so pumped that they're a part of our podcast now, and we will be pumping the hell out of Blue Note Roofing. So any roofing needs, because believe me, those storms that went through Arnold, Jefferson County, I know JR suffered from it, my parents suffered from it, make sure you give Blue Note Roofing a call.
Well, the whole thing too about that is I'm fairly certain that through those storms that the Fandango compound came out okay.
Did they?
But I don't know that 100% for sure, and we haven't had anybody check out the roof since, I've been in the house, so we're going to have them come by and just make sure that we're good, because I don't need a roofing issue when it's freaking wintertime.
Right?
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, it's never good at any time, but I don't need it then.
Side tangent with this as well. Like, I was thinking about it once we found out that Blue Note was going to be the sponsor of Last Minute Blues Podcast, to think of where this started, Donnie, this podcast, because it's been around for a while before JR
I was going to say the same thing, yeah.
It was Donnie and Jeff Burton that just were 2 Blues fans that were like, let's just start a podcast. And then, of course, it got Jamie Rivers a part of it, and Jamie was a big piece of this as well. And then once JR and I joined it, we were able to kind of take it even higher. But, man, from where it started to where it's at now, congrats to you, Donnie.
Take it even lower as well.
Well, that's true.
Well, I want to give you a little bit of a backstory on that, just a bit, and that is, so like the genesis of it is pretty much that we wanted to do a podcast, blah 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 blah. But Jeff and I were getting a massive amount of heat from Tommy the Boss about doing a podcast.
Really?
Now, not necessarily together, but both of us needed like something. And so as the Blues were starting to put that together, or, as that season was starting to heat up, Jeff was like, we should do something hockey. It'll be fun. And Jamie was still kind of like on the fringes of ESPN at that particular time. And once we kind of all just got in the room together, Jeff and Jamie being such buddies, and me and Jeff being such buddies just made it real easy, man. Like there was no like sort of feeling each other out or anything like that. We just kind of hit the ground running, and like 3 episodes later, they were busting my balls. So like it did not take long.
It was so great because Alex can probably understand where I'm coming from with this is, all day long it's X's and O's and contracts and stats and things like that. And I knew of you two listening to The Point for all these years, but I would turn the dial and all of a sudden I'd hear, welcome back to Last Minute Blues podcasts. And all of a sudden they're talking about, why did this guy change his jersey number? Like, why the hell would you change it? Like, all the people, I'm like, so I'm listening. I'm like, Donnie's killing me.
Oh, I know.
And then they're talking about stuff where a guy pissed him off at a barbecue or something. And I'm like, this is great. Like, this is what I can tune into to get away from the X's and O's.
I got the job at 101 ESPN in 2019 just to be the sole pre and post game host for the Blues. And I think it was that first year, or it was a year after COVID, I had been asked to be on the podcast with Donnie and Jeff because Jamie was, he had other duties going on, and so they needed somebody to pop on. And I'm like, abso-freaking-lutely, because I loved both of them from The Point. I went on, I was obsessed with it. It was like one of the best times I had ever had. And then that's when I invited Jeff and Donnie on to do pre and post game with me. And I'll never forget, it was the trade deadline of 2021. It was the day prior to the deadline. The Blues played a game, and I had Donnie and Jeff on, and Jeff still to this day, I have the audio clip of this. Jeff gave the best one-liner during an intermission that I have ever heard. I think we played a game, Donnie, of trade deadline buy or sell. I brought up a name and I said, would you buy or would you sell this? And we went through a couple of them, and then Jeff was like, I'd like to throw one in. He goes, Halle Berry, I'd like to buy it, and I'd like to buy it with a full no move clause. Killed me. And I'm like, oh, God bless Jeff.
Dude, we've talked about this before, man, but like there were, as Jeff was really hurting there were definitely times where I was afraid that he was working too hard, that he was coming in on the morning show too much, that he was sticking around for the podcast too long. And, there were multiple times where I said to him, like, hey, dude, we got this. You need to relax. Mm-hmm. And I did not realize it until, much later in Jeff's sickness. But dude, this podcast and being on the Riz show was what was keeping that dude fighting.
Yep.
And so I am so unbelievably honored that we got to do it and that we still get to do it. And I think about how Jeff would think about the podcast now, and he would be so proud.
Oh, yeah.
He would be so unbelievably proud and so stoked. And we had that dude on. I think we had him on the podcast 2 days, maybe 3 days before he passed away. And he was fighting, bro. Like, you could tell that he was not in a great place, but he wanted to do it. He wanted to be there. He didn't want to leave us hanging. And I think it's so unbelievable that dude not only was fighting until the end, but he was really working. He really cared. He wanted to contribute. Yep. It wasn't just him hanging on the phone. He was, he was really trying. So I'm just so unbelievably proud that we're still doing it. And then, when we get interviews like what we've gotten in the last couple months with Steiner and with Ott, I think it's really awesome. But I think one of the things that if you're new to the podcast or if you listen, and just to reiterate kind of what we have going on here, I am the fan. These are the experts. I pepper them with questions, and that's what we're going to do all season. Guys, why? Why did this? Why for another team? And I feel as though one of the best parts about fandom as I've gotten older is realizing that not only do I not know everything, I don't know anything. And so I just love asking questions, and I love this being the place where it doesn't matter your degree of fandom. If you got a question, we're here to answer it, whether that be big, small, whatever. And also, too, selfishly, it's a really goddamn exciting time to be a Blues fan, man. Yeah. Like, oh, holy crap. What a great time to do it.
Which is wild to say that from where it was 3 years ago to where it felt like you were about to go through, and I know, obviously, hockey podcast, but to tie it in with with the Cardinals, of how much they've struggled. You thought the Blues were about to go through that, where it was going to be bleak, dark years where you're like, man, what the hell is happening right now? And in a matter of 3 years, by no means is this team a cup contender, but in a matter of 3 years, it's a team that went from, I don't know when the end is going to get any better, to, well, now they got something that they're cooking with, and now it's just a matter of seeing how it progresses.
Yeah, and Donnie, I just want to echo what you say. You know, you talk about yourself being a fan. You're a knowledgeable fan, and obviously Alex brings a lot to the table. The one thing I try to convey, you know, going 20 plus years covering the team, is that I'm basically a St. Louisan, just like everybody listening to the podcast and reading the articles at The Athletic, and I got a credential to the game. And it doesn't make the opinion any better than anybody reading or listening. You know, sometimes fans will send something on social media or an email, and I'm like, hey, they got a good point there. I'll look into that. Or, hey, I was thinking X. They presented this other side, and actually what they say makes sense. Hey, not all the time. I've got my share of people out to lunch. Don't get me wrong. But hey, listen, we want to go into the locker room and ask the questions. Yeah. And that's what we're going to do this season. And the answers the team, the coaches, the management, the players give, we're going to bring it to you, and we're going to analyze it. And you know, we're going to break it down and give our opinions. And sometimes you agree, sometimes you disagree. But I just want to emphasize that, you know, even though you're around the team every day, yeah, maybe it's an educated opinion, but it's not always, you know, what everybody thinks, and that's what makes talking about all this fun.
I think what's amazing is that we talked about before we even started recording how we didn't have a whole lot to talk about today, and so we're going to talk about music to start things. And now I'm wondering if shifting back to music is going to be like a friggin' crazy weird ass transition. But you know what? I'm going to do it here for a second, because I don't think that, you know, we're not loaded down with a ton of hockey stuff today. But so of the last 5 concerts that I have been to over the course of the last 6 weeks, 3 of those 5 have been country shows.
What?
All right. So listen to this.
My roots.
So I saw Chris Stapleton, which was
phenomenal.
Absolutely freaking lights out, unbelievable. Holy hell, I loved it. Then a couple of days later, I went to the Factory to see this kid, Sam Barber, who is from Southeast Missouri. I believe he's from Sykeston. The place was sold out, and it is a country band, but it definitely leans a little rock, and it was so good. And then last night, boys, I saw something incredible last night. So my wife has been a huge fan of this singer named Sierra Farrell for about 6 months now or so. Crazy about this girl. And I knew that she was country, but I didn't kind of sort of know very much about her. I went in just kind of blind. I was really going as a date night. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We just wanted to go out and have a good time. Gentlemen, that show last night was one of the best shows that I have seen in freaking years. If you at all, and I've never been a country hater as much as I don't like this pop country crap that like WIL plays. I don't even get that. Actually, when I hear some songs that they play, I feel like people made mistakes. You know, like that somebody's like thinks that they did anyway. But this show last night, it was a full band. First of all. They all, you know, came out in the cowboy hats, matching outfits, you know, with the old country shirt.
Bolo ties.
Oh,
yeah.
It was incredible. So her voice, so she is from West Virginia. So she has this sort of slightly different country accent that I had ever really heard. And the take on the music is a little bit different. It's got this sort of, I can't even explain it. But if you like country music at all, you have to check out Sierra Farrell. It was amazing. And then plus 2, it was at the Stiefel Theater. I could see friggin' anything.
Oh, yeah. Stiefel's incredible.
I mean, it's just friggin' beautiful.
I saw Frankie Valli at the Stiefel.
Was he moving?
It was like 3 years ago. He was moving, but he was, you know, it was kind of like
those
that.
Videos of Frankie lately are really disheartening.
Wow, the poor guy. He wasn't even singing either. It was kind of like the mumble.
Yeah. Also, too, the other 2 shows that I went to in that time frame. Well, I've got one coming up on Friday. My daughter and I are going to Chicago to Soldier Field to see My Chemical Romance on Friday night.
Oh, I'm jealous on that one.
Doing the Black Parade record start to finish. But then last Friday, I was at the pageant to see these bands. They're called Catbait, The Suicide Machines, Fishbone, and Less Than Jake. And as I'm watching this show, I'm thinking to myself, I'm giggling. I'm like, God, well, you, Alex, or no, Jeremy would be giggling at the band names. You would be there listening to the music going, this is the worst thing ever. I have to leave.
Yeah.
And it just made me giggle.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You said cat bait, and I'm like, I'm out.
Oh, and also Blink-182 is a month from today, not today.
You said Blink-182, and I'm like, I know that's not for a fact. I'm going to Blink-182 with Donnie. That's going to be my first concert.
Canceled last year?
Yeah.
And it got canceled like a week prior, and I was pissed when Donnie texted me.
No, Bubba. It did not get canceled a week prior. It got canceled the day before.
Oh, yeah. I was
And
livid.
let me tell you about that. I had the day off of that show. I had recorded my shows so that I could take a day off. And then Blink canceled, so I had to come in on my day off and re-record what I had recorded.
Yep, way to go, Blake.
And
You
they
ruined it for
barely
everyone.
even said that they were sorry.
Yeah. And then let's not also forget, because they are the band of the Last Minute Blues podcast, January 17th, Rascal Flatts is at Enterprise Center, and we'll all be going together.
I don't
You're
know
already
about
a country guy, Donnie. It's like we're halfway there.
I believe that Rascal Flatts is in that version of pop country that I absolutely think is the hottest of garbage.
It's the earlier version of the pop country.
The Urge is the band of the Last Minute Blues podcast who we're going to have.
Okay, well, the Urge is the band of the Last Minute Blues podcast. Rascal Flatts is the band of one of the members of the Last Minute Blues podcast.
I think that's all right. Yeah. That makes sense. If anything that you take away from this podcast today, Sierra Farrell. Holy hell,
there
guys. Holy freaking hell.
She'll be the next
plus,
guest.
Like, I'm a jaded music guy. Like, I get there and I am ready to go 5 songs in. Like, cool, saw what I needed to see, out. But man, I was freaking locked into that show last night. It was so good. It's worth dragging ass today.
I would have been out before they said, yeah, now coming to the stage, cat bait. I want to see myself out.
They were so good, too. They were so good. All right, so, gentlemen, back to the hockey thing.
The thing.
Podcast, whatever. The Blues make an interesting signing last week. I believe it was last Friday. They signed Milan Lucic to a PTO, which is obviously notable on a couple of levels. Lucic has not played in well over a year. There was a domestic incident with his wife in Boston. She ended up not pressing charges, things of that nature. I know he entered the NHL substance abuse program, I believe. Player assistance program. Graduated from that or was moved on from that. So, guys, what do you sort of think of this? How do you, I guess the question first and foremost is quite simply why.
Well, and I have a question to piggyback off of the why, because typically you see it's an invite to camp. This wasn't an invite to camp. This was a signing of a player tryout. Is there a difference, JR?
Yeah, unless there's something that I'm just not aware of in terms of a difference between the two. I've seen it worded both ways.
Okay. Because I always see
worded
it
both ways, but meaning the same thing.
Yeah, because I've always seen it where they're invited to training camp, and then it's like, do they get a contract? This one, it's like everywhere I've seen it says he's signed to a professional tryout contract.
Yeah, I guess if you're kind of splitting hairs, it could be you invite him to camp, you see him for a day or two, and then you assign him to a tryout officially. But this is already official.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, look. My first thought, and I know there was a lot of Blues reaction to it of like, man, you're bringing this guy in. Like, come on, the background of him's not the greatest. I totally get that, and it doesn't look good. But for a guy like Milan Lucic, he did the player assistance program. He graduated from it. My initial thought with this was, this isn't the Blues signing him. Doug Armstrong has a tendency of doing this to where he invites guys to camp for a tryout opportunity. And typically we've seen this in the past where it's been, Army's helping out the agent of the player because he wants to get to camp and he wants to showcase himself to potentially go play for another team. And Army's like, yeah, we're more than willing to bring him in because we need numbers to fill up our roster to make sure our lines work. So sure, come on in. But then when you dig a little deeper, Lucic played with Boston when Jim Montgomery was there. And there's always a comment that sticks out to me when you bring in these types of guys. And I remember this was about 4 or 5 years ago to where Doug Armstrong at the end of the season said, having exit interviews with the players, they all talked about how they want to get tougher. They need more guys that have a little bit more piss and vinegar in their game. So I guess, Lucic is the king of that. Like
you don't get much more P&V than that.
like you set aside what took place, which I know is a very awful thing. If it took place, all alleged, the wife dropped it, but the player, I mean, that's exactly the type of guy that you're talking about for a fourth liner. But then it's like, man, where do you even fit in on this team? So I saw it, and originally I was like, yep, okay, probably just a favor to get the guy in so we can work out, see if a team wants to sign him, and he's not going to go anywhere further than that. But because he's got ties with Jim Montgomery, because he does provide that nastiness, maybe it's a depth signing for the Blues if it goes well.
Yeah, the only problem is he's 37 years old, and even a couple years ago when he was still in the league, looked like he was swan song.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like it was towards the end.
It was slow.
Skating, was an issue, and so on and so forth. But from what I've heard, I'm the messenger here. Best shape of my life.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you're going to hear, especially from a guy who's trying to come back to the league. And he's going to come into camp and they're going to get a look at him. To me, what this is Doug Armstrong just flipping over every stone, right? Like if there's an opportunity to Cam Fowler.
Yeah.
The rest of the league had a chance perhaps to get Cam Fowler, and nobody thought that he
was
could play
a minus
anymore.
37 in Anaheim the year prior. Nobody wanted him.
And so you turn over a stone there, and wow, look what you found in Cam Fowler. And so there's a different scenario, obviously, with Lucic. But yeah, they do want to get tougher. I think that bottom six, they'd like a little more grit there. What I hope doesn't happen is that, this puts Nathan Walker in a situation where he's not in the lineup. Because to me, he's not 6'4" Milan Lucic. He's 5'10" Nathan Walker, but he still provides.
He plays like he's 6 foot Milan Lucic.
And then also he's a good fit for that fourth line.
Yeah.
So, Lucic will come in, they'll see what they got. The one tough part too is, you only have the 6 preseason games this year, right? So let's say Lucic stays in camp and he gets in a couple preseason games. It's one spot, but it does take away a spot for one of these younger guys to get in and showcase. Now, as we know, the schedule is going to go to 84 games.
Yeah, and 3 preseasons.
After the new CBA kicks in. And there's going to be less preseason games, which is going to make these at a premium. And I did a story for The Athletic where we talked to a bunch of players and we said, hey, what do you think about this? And they said, well, it's great for the veterans. But a lot of the younger guys told me, man, don't take away my games. I get a chance to show what I can do. And, Lucic is going to take a spot potentially in some of those games.
And that's the part for me too, Donnie, to where it's like, you've already got, typically they carry 14 forwards, 7 defensemen, 2 goaltenders. You've already got the 12 guys that are playing for you. I'm with JR. Like, you're not taking a spot from a Walker or a Toropchenko or a Sundqvist. The 2 extra forwards are the 2 guys that are under contract, and Joseph and Texier. Does he outperform one of those guys? And then you've got the Dvorsky side of it as well. So I just think it's an opportunity for Lucic to come out and showcase maybe to other teams in the NHL. But as we said, when you want some nastiness, you go out there and potentially have it as a 14th forward that can step into certain games.
Can I ask a quick question here, and then I want to ask about this
turning my leg
schedule
here.
Yeah, we're going towards
my legs. My legs are getting tired. But when it comes to the Lucic situation, the first thing that I thought of was that if you're Matthew Joseph or Texier, you're like, oh, crap, I got somebody else nipping at the heels. But maybe is that not necessarily?
That's just the league. I mean, you're going to deal with that every year. And I know you know that.
You're right. Yeah.
If it isn't Lucic, it's going to be somebody else that's challenging him. And to be honest, it could be Dvorsky if he has a great camp, and Joseph or Texier don't look good. And you're always going to come to camp with 13, 14, 15 forwards who have a chance. The thing is, what it comes down to is if you don't see like a veteran type guy, Joseph's been around for a while. If you don't see him in the top 9, is he a guy you're going to carry as a 13, 14 and not play most nights? Or are you going to move him off the roster? Not that there's anything much that you could get in return, but I think that's what's going to get settled in camp. A lot of times guys are, if they don't fit in your top 9 or your top 12, they're probably not a good fit for your roster. Those 13, 14 guys who are the extra guys, maybe a Lucic in this example, they have to kind of fit that role.
Yeah. Where you're fine sitting for 20 games, and then if an injury takes place, you still might not get in. They might go down to the American Hockey League. Like, you don't typically put those for the 14th forward as a guy that's going to sit for half of the season.
Like Texier, real quick, is I realized that he sat for a couple of weeks and then he came and he scored. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is if you want a guy like that to be his best, he's got to be in the lineup
for sure
and get some runway.
Which is why get some regular chances. Like, have the ability to kind of build on something sort of thing.
Which is why I find the roster decision so fascinating, because like they've got 12 guys, depending on what role you need, there could be a path for a guy like Milan Lucic. And typically it's the motivation factor as well. You bring more guys into camp so that the veterans that you have under contract perform so they don't get cut. And if I'm guys on the fringe of this roster, after what Doug Armstrong did this past year with Brandon Saad and then what he did with Nick Leddy, I'd be concerned if I don't perform well in training camp if I've got a roster spot still.
Yeah, and the only true downside to this is because let's say they sign him to a 1 year minimum contract, $775, and he's on the roster, right? Well, it's not like in a month or two we're going to say he's taking ice time from Snuggerud. That's not what's happening here. So, if he comes out and shows that he can still play in the NHL, you got an extra body who you can play and see what happens, go from there. But there's no real negative unless he comes in, the Blues do sign him, and he just can't play and they let him hang around.
Yeah. It would just be, I'm not, obviously I want all things to work, but to have somebody that friggin' nasty, whoa, buddy, it's been a minute.
Well,
it has been a minute since we have had someone with that kind of sideways attitude.
Just total tinfoil projecting in this scenario. They've liked Nathan Walker at the center position. You could see Walker used the center spot on the fourth line with a Toropchenko on the wing. And we know how they used Sundqvist last year to where it was like, they didn't want to use him a whole lot because they wanted to make sure that he was well rested and didn't use him in back-to-backs. Imagine where a couple of games here and there, you've got Walker centering Toropchenko and Lucic.
Yeah, and I wouldn't discount that because when I talked to Jim Montgomery a month or so ago for a story, he mentioned Walker as one of the centers. So I think that, and also when we think about Oscar Sundqvist these days, we think about, him slowing down and getting older. And hey, that's nothing to take away from what he's done in his career. It's just where he's at right now. And maybe he is best served at the wing. So, Jim Montgomery didn't come out and say Nathan Walker's going to play center, but he listed him among the guys.
And that goes that goes into what we were talking about in terms of fitting the roles. A 13th forward is a guy that you want to keep healthy, but he's able to come into the lineup here and there, which may be an Oscar Sundqvist. A 14th forward is a guy that's okay sitting for a while, a Milan Lucic. So it does play well for Lucic if he has a good camp.
When I see Oscar Sundqvist be interviewed, I feel pain. Because I just assume that he's hurting somewhere.
When I see Oscar Sundqvist,
I just assume something is hurt and not feeling great.
When I see Oscar Sundqvist, I think of Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber because that's what Joey called him with his tooth missing the year in 2019. He kept calling him Lloyd Christmas.
Dude, that's fantastic. Yeah. I want to ask this question, and I understand that coming from a very big hockey fan that this might be a weird question, but CBA is done, will take effect next year. I want to know who wanted more regular season hockey. And listen, I'm not trying to be like totally terrible, but I feel like, and I love the NHL regular season, but friggin' 82 games feels like a lot, especially when you're playing the goddamn final in June, late June, early July. I love the NHL. I love hockey, but I feel as though, if anything, the schedule could be shrunk a little bit and make it, I don't know.
Well, I can tell you who wanted the two more games.
That's the owners.
Wanted to be paid.
Yeah, I was going to say the NHL.
Well, it's both because they're going to split the revenue. So in terms of those two games are now going to be on the NHL calendar and part of the HRR hockey related revenue, and as opposed to the preseason games. That's also who wanted it. The players wanted fewer preseason games because they just, other than the younger guys that wanted a chance to prove themselves, the guys that are NHL here, they don't like playing more than 2 or 3 preseason games. Yeah.
Was that a trade-off between the players and the owners? If we're going to lose these preseason games, then we need some gate revenue somewhere else made up? Or?
Yeah, but I don't know that either side wanted 8 preseason games. It's not like, and I'm not saying that you were asking that, but it's not like one of them was, no, we have to have the 8 preseason game. No, well, if you come down to 6, we'll do this. So I think that both sides are fine limiting the number of preseason games, but I think that both sides saw that anytime you can add to that HRR, which you're able to do with the 2 games. I mean, every player that I interviewed for that story for The Athletic, when I said, do you want to play 84 games? Do you want to play more games? They said, if we're adding to the payroll, for sure.
Well, and if my understanding is correct, because of the fewer preseason games and the shorter training camp, they are starting the season earlier. So you're talking about potentially starting late September if I remember this, which would mean with an 84-game schedule, you're potentially going to end the regular season earlier, which means you can try and play that Stanley Cup championship game
try and
earlier.
play. I think if I remember correctly, when Pierre LeBrun was writing stories about that, it looked like the Cup might still stretch out as far as it's stretching out. But yeah, it did look like the season would start a little bit earlier. And you even look at this year's schedule, 82, because of the Olympic schedule, it's going to be just as compact. Which means more late nights for Alex, more back-to-back nights.
I know. There's like a stretch in, I think it's December or January. It was like 3 9:30 starts. And I'm like, oh, boy, I'm going to be a miserable you-know-what that week. I already told Katie, I'm like, mark this one off. I'm not going to be a fun person to be around.
You're not going to want to speak to me.
God, I hate 9:30 starts. Although I will say the trade-off on that, a lot of afternoon starts on Saturdays, which I am here for.
Oh, that's not nice little balance
I'll
there.
take it.
That'll work. The only thing is I was so excited about a Saturday afternoon start one time. It was a couple years ago, and you guys might remember the story. Like Saturday afternoon, game's over at 2:30, out of the locker room at 3:30, done with my story at 5. Can't wait to get out and have a normal dinner on a Saturday night. And dang it, if we didn't get locked in that freight elevator for an hour, and I don't remember how much time, 43 minutes, an hour.
Yeah.
43 minutes.
I ended post game and you guys were still in that elevator, and I'm like, whoa, sucks to be you guys.
Were you
I took the stairs.
How many people were in the elevator?
There was about, I can't remember exactly, 14, and we were there, and people started tweeting and putting stuff on social media from inside the elevator.
Yeah.
And
Tom
I was
Timmerman
like,
took a picture and JR was just like this.
yeah, because I was like, okay, it's going to be funny or whatever you want to call it for 10 minutes, right? And then
we're still stuck.
Yeah, so let's quit the live.
What time did you get out of that elevator?
Well, all I know is that all you could think about is that your laptop is on press row, so it's not like you could sit in the elevator and work. So whenever we got out of the elevator,
still
which
had to
again,
work.
hour and 40, then you had to go write the story for another hour and a half. So anyway,
I feel kind of guilty for giggling at that.
Oh, it was funny.
all right.
Oh, I laughed on air at it. I said it on post game. I'm like, well, the beat writers are locked in an elevator right now, so they might not be out for a while.
So I think I went to that famous Italian place for dinner later that night, Witty Castelli, or White Castle. You guys probably know it, but
Witty Castelli. I thought you were going to say Fasoli's.
We are actually working on a promotion with a band in White Castle right now, and it might be one of the most fun things that I have done in my time in life.
Well, you need to talk to him about the Italian name of it. I've never heard that one before.
And also, and I know that this is terrible because we are recording just before 10 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, I would absolutely hammer some double cheeseburgers from White Castle.
Oh, JR turned his legs towards you. Must be interested.
All right, so guys, here's what we got.
No,
All right,
back to White Castle.
Yeah, back to Witty Castelli.
So here's the question to ask you guys for real. So we've been in here, we've been chopping it up, half hour or so. We got some hockey, we got some music, we got some
Witty Castelli.
other sort of things. What are we missing? And what do we need to make sure that the people know before we jump out of here?
Other than JR's great piece with Jimmy Snuggerud, bulked up a little bit, so I'm excited for that one. I think that's probably about it.
What do you think of the young man in your chats with him?
Yeah, and I was thinking about this because I knew we'd talk about Jimmy Snuggerud. Is when I tell you guys that these young guys sound more mature than ever, am I overdoing it? Like,
No.
Okay, so
Every time I interview Jake Neighbors, I'm like, have you played in the league for 12 years?
yeah,
Right.
and we've talked about this with Jake Neighbors and Jimmy Snuggerud's another one. So you get them on the phone and half-hour conversation and did a 10-question Q&A for the Athletic that's up, and it's just you get a guy who's composed, thoughtful with his answers, knows what it's like these guys are trained, right? And I guess they are, especially at University.
Well, when we talked to
Minnesota.
Jake Neighbors,
Yeah.
he had said that I don't even
Media training in Edmonton.
but when did it even start?
When he was like 12 or 13, he said, junior
Holy
hockey.
hell, man.
All right.
Oh.
But you talk to them, and even though they've been trained, what they're probably supposed to say and not supposed to say, he still knows to give you, some meat on the bone a little bit. And so you talk to him, hey, you got a great shot, right? Well, he's not going to say yeah, but
He's like, hell yeah, I do.
But,
High five.
But are there still things you can work on and that you can do? And he said, oh yeah, it's all about push and pull with the puck, and you got to find different angles, and you got to. You get these goalies are so hard to beat. You got to catch them off guard. And so here's a guy who's been working on his shot, which he's known for. And yeah, you don't expect that he's done working on this thing, but to know that he's putting in the time. And then Alex touched on the weight. At one point during the interview, Jimmy Snuggerud goes, I was just a little guy. You saw me out there, right? And
He's tiny.
he's
Tall, but tiny.
but he did a pretty good job, I thought, for the weight that he was, which was, about 185. So he's put on, Donnie, 11, 12 pounds, he said. He's up to about 190 97. And, it's cliche, but he said it's going to help him in the corners, help him in the battles. And so we'll see. So we'll see a bigger Jimmy Snuggerud when he gets here. And then just some of the other things that we touched on. Here's a guy who came in and was assigned to the top 6 right away on that top line with Thomas and Buchnevich, and it looks like he's going to start camp there, even though, in camp they mix it up and you might just have 2 guys together, but eventually they'll be reunited. And, for a guy 21, 22 years old to come in and get that assignment. So I asked him, what happens on the days where maybe you don't have a great game or you got a couple days in a row where just things aren't going well for you, snake bitten, whatever, you get pushed to that third line. Like, how do you keep that confidence? And, another thoughtful answer, hey, things are going to change in the NHL. I've talked to a lot of guys, veterans in the locker room. This is Snuggerud talking, where he said that they told him, hey, it's a long grind. You didn't do the grind last year. You just did the 7 regular season games, 7 postseason games. And so just realize that once we get going, there's going to be some ups and downs. You're going to get pushed down to the third line, and it's how you respond to it. And so there again, a real good, thoughtful answer from Snuggerud.
We talked about this before on the podcast, but it is incredibly obvious to me that the Blues are not only drafting the player for his skills, but I mean, they seem to be doing just an out-of-the-park great job of picking the right kind of player. They just come in with this workhorse, hard hat mentality, man, and it's incredibly apparent, whether it be Neighbors, whether it be Snuggerud. I mean, it just seems like all of these dudes kind of come up with that sort of way about them.
Well, look at the guy that they just drafted, that Justin Carbonell.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because when we interviewed Doug Armstrong on that draft show that we hosted, after that pick, he told us, he's like, there's 2 elements we always look for in Blues players when we draft them: hockey character and hockey IQ. He's like, we don't really care. We can figure out the other stuff, the shot, the skill. If you've got hockey IQ, hockey sense when you're on the ice, and you've got good character, you match what we're looking for. And think of it: Jake Neighbors, Jimmy Snuggerud, Zach Bolduc, and then now a guy like Justin Carbonell. Like, that is what the mindset has been, and it's benefited the Blues when you get those types of players because the skill follows.
Boy, and you know what I was just thinking of, and this is like one of those things that I'm going to say, and you're going to go, duh. But I mean, one of the things that's going to help Alex Steen's transition in the GM role is going to be these amazing friggin' scouts and people that are going to remain in the organization even if, Army's taken a bit more of a back seat. So that kind of makes me feel a little, not necessarily that I'm worried about a transition or anything. It makes you feel better that the Army's team is coming with Steen, essentially.
Yeah, that inner circle that he talks about all the time, all of those guys are going to be around for Steen. And Steen is probably, I would assume, going to insert some of his guys that have hockey sense, which, think about that, those are guys that are closer to the game than what the inner circle guys are that have been around Doug Armstrong.
Yeah, that's a good point, Donnie. Pretty seamless, because not only will he likely keep most of these guys, if not all of them, but he's worked with them for the past year, and he's going to work with them this year too. So, the Blues put out those behind the scenes videos of like a pre-draft meeting where they're at the war room. Yeah. And, it's Alex Steen sitting down with the 10 guys who, that do the drafting, that do the player development, so on and so forth. So yeah, that should be pretty seamless from that standpoint. And we do got a little bit of house cleaning. The Blues announced some new numbers for their
I forgot about that
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep. So you got Nick Bukestad, 77. When I talked to him a couple weeks ago, he actually said who was the last player to wear it, and I goofed up. He said, was it Mikkola, which he knew, and I said yes. And then later, it was P.O. Joseph.
Oh, that's right.
Joseph wore it for a couple months there.
Right.
So 77. And so Bukestad said he picked that number. I think he wanted 17. It's his daughter's birthday, but Fowler wears that. So
I'm surprised Fowler didn't change, because wasn't Fowler number 4 with Anaheim?
Yeah, for his longest time. And I texted him the other day and I said, hey, are you changing back to 4? He said, no, keeping 17.
Wow.
Bukestad, I think, wanted 17. Like I said, couldn't get it, but he's got 2 other daughters, and their birthdays on the 7th.
Oh, nice.
Different months.
Good on him.
So he goes 77. Then we have this
was
one's
great.
Crazy. Tell it, Alex.
So Ryan Suter last year wore number 22, and Pius Suter is wearing number 22. So for all of you out there that bought a Ryan Suter jersey,
You say for all you, like how many people are we
a lot of them.
here?
I guarantee it. They got a Ryan Suter 22 jersey, and they can carry it over to Pew Suter.
Well, and also, too, I believe the Blues made an announcement today that they're going to be on national television 14 times.
7 home, 7 road games.
Yeah, I saw some of those matchups, though. I didn't believe that they were.
Chicago was 2 of them, and I'm like, ooh.
I think I saw like 3 or 4 with
Was
the
it?
Hawks, and it was like, oh, well.
At least it's not a Winter Classic, right?
That one could have been safe for FanDuel, as far as I'm concerned.
And one other number, Logan Mailloux.
Oh,
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think Logan Mailloux's number 23, which is what I'll wear, will be in the rafters one day?
Or a statue outside.
Oh, my God. Boy, put me on the spot. I mean, I would say no, but the reason, no, I would say no. I would just say no, just the law of averages.
That's smart. That's smart.
I will say
Thanks
that.
for putting me on the spot, man.
Johnny's not that big of a fan. Doesn't think he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So Suter, Puce Suter, he also wanted a couple different numbers. He wanted 24, but for Durko, it's up in the rafters.
Yeah.
He wanted 44, but
Up in the rafters.
Pronger, it's up in the rafters.
Oh, okay, so 22 is going to go up in the rafters at some point.
I did say to Suter, I said, so can you put 22 up in the rafters? He goes, well, I think I'll need more than a 2-year contract.
Well, I don't know.
Most likely. That does make sense.
23, though, was Logan. Who was the last person to wear 23?
Oh, man.
That's been a while, because the only one I thought of was, I was like, oh, you took Murray Barron's old number.
Oh, the Murr.
Yeah. And I guarantee somebody has worn 23 since then. That was what, the 90s?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I don't know why you're asking me. I got the Mikula thing.
And that guy was just here.
Technically, I did too. So,
All right. So here's the story. We're going to be back in a couple weeks to do the podcast again, right?
Yep.
Any great guests or anything pop up, we'll obviously jump at that opportunity.
Yeah,
If you
we're efforting TJ Oshie.
yeah.
Absolutely. Hopefully going to talk to the Urge guys as well. But if you have not watched our chat with Alex Steen or with Steve Ott, we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Those guys were great.
Yeah.
They were so good. So if you're looking for something to kind of get you ready for the season, I think those are a couple of good interviews for you to check out.
Yep, I agree.
And we will be back here in just a couple of weeks. We always thank you guys for watching and for listening. And also you can send in your questions as well. LMBP at 1057thepoint.com. And if you got some questions, we'll read them as well. For our homeboy, Jeff Burton, Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN, Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic. I'm Donnie Fandango from 1057 The Point. Thanks as always for listening and watching. And let's go Blues.
The Last Minute Blues Podcast. Hear more at 1057thepoint.com.